Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is one of those conversations that really show how much impact community work can have, both on your career and on your mindset. My guest is Johannes Koch, Principal Engineer at FICO and one of 12 official AWS Heroes in Germany. He started out in Q&A, moved through application development, and now plays a leading role in building cloud platforms at scale. We talked about how getting involved with the AWS Community Builders program opened unexpected doors, what it actually means to be an AWS hero, and why cicd shouldn't be an afterthought, but the very first thing you set up in a project. Johannes also shared his take on DevOps as a culture, not just a role, and how he's shifted from being in the spotlight to helping others grow in the community. Have fun with this episode and let's get into it. Hey Johannes, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Andreas, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we met in Heilbronn last time, I think, right? Was Heilbronn at the meetup?
I think it was Heilbronn. It's been a while, yes.
Yeah, and I saw this week actually you had a meetup from your group, but I always get this too late. I don't know why. It's like I saw this on Friday and then...
There's an easy answer to that, Andreas. You know why? Because we always put up the event very late on Meetup because we always forget. So no blame on you, right? But we meet in Bensheim usually with the AWS user group that I have together with a few friends, and it's a pretty small group. I think this time we had five people attending. It was a pretty interesting event. Nevertheless, right? It becomes to have technical conversations with people that are really interested in a lot of things. And that's what I enjoy when I go or when I host user groups. So it was pretty good.
Cool. Before we get into the whole AWS DevTools hero topic and cicd, which is your thing, I think it would be nice for people to get a bit of an overview, like how did your career transition? And basically, because you started some time as an application developer and then you got now into the position as a principal engineer at an analytics company. And I think it would be interesting for people like to understand what have been some moments that shaped your journey. Like,
yeah, let me try to tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from and how did I end where I am today, right? And I think it's for me it has been a interesting journey over the past 20 years. I think what makes me unique compared to a lot of other people is that I've been in all parts of the software development lifecycle. That means I did not even start as an application developer. I studied mathematics, and at the same time, while studying mathematics, I started to work in this small mid-sized company in my hometown. I started to work as a QA engineer over there, and I was serving or working there for like two years, doing automation testing and implementing especially the integration tests and the end-to-end user interface tests that we needed for an application that was at that time obviously only available on premises because that was back in 2006, 2007, something like that. So it's been a while. But that company then decided, oh, this guy seems to be smart, so we're going to hire him as an application engineer, an application developer. And that's where I started my journey on the Java front at that site. Being responsible for implementing parts of our web applications and also the backend services that were written in, I think it was Java 4 or something, 1.4 or something like that. So it's been a while. But that was just the starting point in that company. We were doing regulatory compliance, and I transitioned into being the responsible person for our product support. And I think that is a very interesting perspective because you do second or third level support. You at the same time you need to talk to customers, so you need to understand the business needs. So that shaped a lot of the learnings that I did through in my career to get to a position where I understand better than a lot of others how important client-facing communication is as well, right? And how important it is to map things down to business requirements. So after that position, and I stayed in the same organization actually, we decided, okay, we need to move our stuff to the cloud. And this is what brought me to AWS in roughly 2015. So we started the classical lift and shift approach. I don't know, your audience, I think, is mainly on the data side, but also a little bit on the cloud side, right? So we took our existing applications, migrated them as fast, as simple as possible to the cloud, and made a SaaS application out of it, which is still running as of today. It is a SaaS platform right now. I'm not part of the team anymore because they are not part of our organization anymore. But that was definitely a tipping point for me to look into AWS and how things kind of work together. I'm going to pause there before I go into what that actually means. Maybe you have another question on that topic so far. So
yeah, I mean, when you said it's important to talk, basically have that customer facing needs and talking with the customers, that's often something where like engineers think they don't need it, or which is overlooked, right?
Well, I think we have a habit of saying that engineers should focus on developing code. And I think that's correct. We need that portion of engineers, right, that are focused on code, that are very strong players on writing code and know all of the nitty details of a framework that we're using. So, but you asked me what shaped my career, right? For me, it was that understanding of not looking only at code, but understanding how the impact of defects and bugs are for our customers. Like as I said, we were doing regulatory compliance that included things like identifying money laundering, and it included things like identifying fraud. That means if you miss a transaction that is fraud-led, or a transaction that actually is doing money laundering, then you don't comply with the regulatory things that you do. So, I don't. Well, not me. Our customers don't. And we had a bunch of pretty interesting conversations and situations over there that made me understand that what developers do does have an impact. And yeah, that then at the end, as I said, like helped me to get into the situation of doing that lift and shift, and then migrating that offering that we had into a SaaS platform, right? And that exposed me to not only AWS, but also the mindset of DevOps and how that all fits together, which, to be honest, is exactly what you need to have in mind, right? If you're not that detailed engineer, you need to understand how you need to work together across different parts of the organization to be successful. And I think that's where the things that I knew before, that I learned before, were very important for me and how I developed further.
So you would, because DevOps, whenever I talk with people, and that was also on that meeting where we met, you were also talking a bit about DevOps, and very often people only think about software. Right? They're only thinking about, okay, we're developing it and we're operating it, and then basically that's the whole thing. And so
I think it's even worse, right? So in certain areas, and now I'm specifically looking at a lot of job descriptions in the Indian job market, right? The DevOps engineer is something that traditionally does automation. The DevOps engineer is someone that traditionally is responsible for making sure that the CI/CD pipelines are up and running, that the tools are up and running, and stuff like that. That's not the way that I look at DevOps. Right? The way that I look at DevOps, for me, it means that different teams in different parts of the organization work together, and they are responsible for ensuring that the changes or features or defect fixes hit the customer's environment as fast as possible. They also own their stuff until operations, right? So it's more that culture of working together, of ensuring that we as one team deliver something that produces value for our customers, and not that traditional piece of only automation.
Yeah. I mean, because that's all what counts, right?
At the end, that's what makes the money, right? The money is if you're building product, that's what makes the money. And I think a lot of there's a lot of flavors of DevOps that we can talk about, right? But having that mindset in your head around ensuring that you have blameless conversations in every situation, ensuring that you as a product team deliver something for your clients and try to produce additional business value, I think that has a big impact on the way that people in an organization work together, right? And now in 2025, there is many nuances on how to apply DevOps to your organization, right? So I think that's pretty interesting. A lot of people now go into the direction of, okay, platform engineering and internal developer portals or platforms and these kind of things. Happy to talk about that as well. But the foundation of that is the culture of collaboration as a team and producing business values for your end users, whoever that is, right? That can also be internal customers. So maybe I can move on, right, from that situation of doing that SaaS thing, right? I went to reInvent 2018, I think was my first reInvent in Las Vegas. Fascinating experience. But that made me understand a little bit that AWS is more than just the 10 services that we were using at that time, right? Which then created a little bit of my curiosity to understand better what the hell the thing has to offer. And I think that was then the starting point with a lot of other steps that we can obviously also talk about, right? That brought me into the situation where I am today, right? Because I'm right now working as a principal architect in a US analytics company. We, on the one side, we are famous for the credit risk score in US. So we are called FICO. And on the other side, we are building a platform to empower our clients to take better decisions and better analytical decisions. Now, not only backed up by the data that you actually see, but also powered up by some of the AI models that we have been building since the 1970s. So we have Scott Soldi as our chief analytics officer. He's well known in the industry for his his research around AI and applying AI to especially financial services use cases. And that's where I'm part of the enterprise architecture team and where I'm at the moment helping to shape how our platform lives under the hood and how we're actually building that up from the ground.
So you most likely like the new services that they created on AWS specifically for AI, machine learning.
No, I don't. I think we're not even using all of them, right? So I think FICO has an approach of explainable AI, right? And most of the newer AI services don't really consider that aspect of explainable AI, right? And that's where, there is 100 different AI services at AWS as well, right? If you're specifically looking at talking about Bedrock, then Bedrock gives you the possibility to run models, right? But then you need to trust someone that has created that model. And we have had a lot of examples in the industry to see that not every model is trustable, right? In the way that it analyzes stuff. So we at the moment are not using any of those services, as far as I'm aware, as part of our platform.
But how do you see this in the future? Because, of course, with explainable AI, it always depends on the use case. If it's not really necessary to explain how it works, like let's say something like ChatGPT, right? It's not necessary for me personally to understand how it creates the prompts. But in a case for fraud detection and so on, okay, then that's a case.
Well, I think that these new tools give you a lot of possibilities, right? And these new possibilities are there for us to grow and learn with what they actually offer, right? You already mentioned prompts, right? How do I ensure that I use the right prompts to get the answers that I'm expecting? I think that's going to be a new thing that is going to be growing over the next years. We already call that prompt engineering. How do I find out what the right prompts are to get the most efficient answers out of the different type of models? And I think that's going to be something that will be growing. How will it affect what we do at FICO? Well, I would assume that some of our engineers will become prompt engineering experts for our part of the business that we're actually interested in. And I think that's what's going to change a little bit for us here in this case.
Yeah, but with the prompt engineering, the first companies already say prompt engineering is that they're already moving the next step. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see, right? I think it depends on where you are in the hype cycle, right? There is a lot of people that want to feel like they are ahead of everyone else. In fact, that's not true, right? Maybe they are just a few weeks ahead. And there's others that are kind of coming up a little bit later. I would say this thing is going to be around for some time. We can see that now, right? And we will see how that actually develops going forward, I would say.
True.
Coming back maybe to my community career, because I think that was in parallel to FICO, because you asked me earlier, like, how did you get to become a principal architect, and how did you get to become an AWS hero, which for me is combined. So all of my community stuff started in 2022 or 23. I can't even remember, right? I had a blog for 15 years and I had a LinkedIn account. I was just posting a little bit over there sometimes. And then I had a kind of difficult situation in my career at FICO. I wasn't really happy with the tasks that I was doing over there. And I was like, okay, what the hell do I do? Yeah, well, okay. I go down to my 40 hours that we're due to build, right? And I used then the rest of the time on the PC to start looking around what I can do. And I ended up in the AWS Community Builders program, which is one of the community programs that AWS runs. And I can happily explain a little bit what that is. But ending in there showed me a little bit more about what the AWS community has to offer, right? And happy to talk and explain a little bit what I saw that made me invest a lot of time, I would say, in that community, especially in 2023 and also 2024, and even a little bit before that. So I think that was pretty remarkable for me.
Before we get into that, I would very much love to hear what that was, but maybe for the people who don't know the difference, like the community builder program that many people know, and then there are the heroes, basically, where, I don't know, in Germany there are only a bunch, 10 or something,
12, I believe.
12.
So here's the thing, right? AWS has 3 different community programs, and they all have their value, and they all help the community, I would say, to grow, and specifically also to get together. The first one we already mentioned is the AWS Community Builders program. This is a program where everyone that wants to can apply, and can apply every year in January. And it is a program that I would say is focused on creating content, learning how to create content, learning to get to know people and to learn from each other, right? At the end, it's an opportunity also for you to grow. And this is what I used it for, right? So there is a Slack instance. I think when I joined the program, I was the most active Slack user over there, right? I was trying to help others, but even more, I was consuming all of the information that people were putting in there. You could see at that time, there are so many smart people around the globe, right? And what I did is I started a project with 5 people from all around the globe, building something that we believed that we needed as a community. That was pretty fun, right? But that was the first time that I kind of got into working together with people that are not part of my organization at that time, outside my organization. And to be honest, I was lucky because everything that I did in the Community Builders program was unrelated to my day job.
Okay.
Sounds funny, right? But I used really that program and the curiosity that I had to learn about new services, to learn about how to apply and how to use different services. But I used none of them in my organization. In my organization, I was only doing developer experience stuff, I would say. And then I was, and the learnings that I did through that Community Builders program really helped me not only to find friends around the globe, but also to broaden my horizon. I think it was in 2022 when I got a talk at the community lounge at reInvent, and then I decided I'm going to go to the community lounge at reInvent, even though my organization was not paying for me, right? And in that year, we as a community builders group also founded the annual reInvent hike, pre-invent hike. It always happens on the Sunday before reInvent around Las Vegas. And we started with 9 people. And last year we were about 60. So we are now meeting with people all around the world from that community builders group, and now also the other community programs that we have, to just go out hiking in the desert around Las Vegas for 5 to 6 hours. And that's pretty funny, right? Because
Cool.
you don't, sometimes you don't know those people, right? But there is a person that always brings alfajores from Argentina. So I'm going to need to go every year just to meet him and get my alfajores from him. And if you don't know what that is, you should maybe look that up afterwards. But that's the first program. That's the Community Builders program. And that's really focused on empowering people to grow and to develop somewhere, right? And that's what it did to me. And the community team is also giving you a lot of possibilities to get closer to some of the service teams. And that's a pretty interesting possibility, right? And as I said, it's free. You can just apply and then potentially you get invited.
I like that because I always hear from people that they're stuck at their job. Right? They're not using the tools they're interested in, and they want to grow, but they don't know how. I do that. Basically, I help them with my academy, but that is more of the educational side. But these free programs where you can just come in, where you can get to know people, where you can get experiences or with them, that's a big plus.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing there is that you need to stay curious and you need to come up and try out some of your ideas, right? So all of the learnings that you can do in your academy or in also other opportunities that people have, if you don't find practical use cases to apply what you're learning, then you're not going to learn. You're going to listen to something, but you don't get it into your head, and then you cannot apply to it, right? And this is what happens to a lot of people that go around and say, yes, I got all AWS certificates and I know everything about AWS. And then you start and ask them, oh, what's the best way of getting serverless servers implemented with the following constraints? And they may know the answer from the books, but then you ask them, okay, come on, let's build this. Can you go ahead and build this? And then they get stuck. And I think that's what, at least for me, the Community Builders program helped me, right? To understand, yeah, I need to build something to be successful and to also learn a lot on how things work under the hood.
Yeah. But that is, I feel like a general problem with certifications, that they focus very much on the theoretical parts, on the parts that you can then later test, have a test for the certificate, but not enough on the actual practical doing part.
Yeah, but that's also really hard to implement, right? So I get where the certifications come from, but for me, really, the community builders helped me to exchange learnings and knowledge with a lot of people in the globally in the community, and that brought me the learnings that I think I needed at that time, right, to grow.
So, and then there's the Hero program, or then there are the Heroes.
I would say let's keep the Heroes program as a last one. I would say, okay. Because that's the hardest part to do, right? That's the hardest part to do, and I can come back to that later. I think the Community Builders program is good because it gives you the possibility to directly get started once you get invited. And then once you're part of that, you have all freedom to do whatever you want. There is no constraints on telling you, now you need to talk about this service, or now you need to make sure that this service is the greatest. No, you're free to say what you think, and also to give feedback on the services that you believe is important for AWS to get better. Another program where you can also directly get started is the AWS User Groups program, which is a similar program to the Builders, but I would say it's more focused on local meetups. You already talked about the Heilbronn one. I talked about, the Bergstraße one, but I think we have about 80 user groups. No, I can't remember. 120 user groups, I think, in EMEA. The idea is AWS interested people get together regularly. There is no cadence that is enforced, right? So regularly to learn from each other, talk with each other, and spend some time together. Most of us do that combined with something to drink and something to eat, and the most common is pizza, but there is a lot of user groups that also moved away from that. And it can be any size. It can be from 5 people in my user group to regularly 250 people in the user group Munich. And you as a person can directly get started and get involved there, right? And then potentially either start your own user group if you don't have one in your region already, or collaborate with the user group leader that you already have locally to ensure that this user group grows. But I like to put that on the similar level as the community builders, because you can get involved there without you needing to do anything for it, right? So if you wake up tomorrow morning, Andreas, and you think, okay, cool, in my hometown there is no user group, I want to now start one. Go ahead, right? There's no restrictions around that. And in Germany, we have a Förderverein that can help you to do the right things to get started, right? And I think that's where this program also offers fantastic opportunities to practice your speaking capabilities, your public speaking capabilities, to learn from others, to network, to get together with people that do something completely different. And also in my user group, I've already been able to help someone find a new job, right? Just because I knew he was looking for, and I was able to tell him, okay, please talk to this person. He might be a job, or he might have a job for you because I know you and I know him, and that kind of thing is what a user group for me makes a user group live, right? And that's where this program has also the fantastic opportunity that you can really do whatever you want. And AWS also supports you with some money, some swag, some support. They also support you with if you need to find a speaker. They also support you if you need to if you want to get back to service teams and connect to service teams. So it also gives you a lot of possibilities to influence a little bit what's going on, and also, especially as I said, right, to talk to people all around the globe. So, as I said, right, community builders and user groups give you the possibility to get involved and get started. The Heroes Program is a little bit different than that, right? So the Heroes Program is, maybe to talk a little bit about numbers. I think the community builders is 2,500 people. User group programs is way more than that, or more than that as far as I know, around the globe. For the AWS Heroes, we have 250 people worldwide today. That's not a lot of people, right? And the best part about the program is that if you are part of the program, you don't know why you are part of the program. So you have no possibility to influence that. So it's a nomination-based program. That means someone in AWS needs to nominate you to give you the possibility to be part of that program. And then there is a committee where a bunch of AWS employees get together and decide who can or who should be part of the program, or who should get an invitation to become part of the program. So that's totally different, because you personally cannot really influence that. And I've had a lot of people asking me, how did you become an AWS hero? And my answer is, I don't know, right? And maybe I have some hints on what influenced me to get nominated for that, right? And maybe I can even find out if I'm interested, right? But the most important thing, I think, is that, at least for me, there is no pathway to become a hero. There is no guidance on do this, do that, and then you will become a hero. There's no guarantee that you will ever be there, right? And I think that's a pretty interesting thing, because the program itself gives you a very high value, at least for me, especially because of the group of people that you get to, right? A lot of people that are very well known in the AWS industry and very well known in the AWS community, but also it gives you the possibility to really influence the services that AWS is building, not for today, but for the next 3 years. And that's a very, very impressive opportunity that you get with that. And I really like that part a lot.
So it's that program is not just for basically outgoing, like helping the community, giving them some benefits. It's also more for, okay, I can work on helping AWS improve and basically put in my put in my experience.
I think the program guidelines don't even state it like that. That's not the idea, right? The idea really is to ensure that you give people a voice that have done tremendous things for the community and or for the AWS ecosystem as a whole, right? So there's 100 different types of heroes that we have, right? In those 250, I would say there is more than 100 different stereotypes of reasons for people to be a hero, right? And that's, as I said, right, that's the power of the Heroes program, at least for me, right? That you don't put people in a box like you only talk about this, you only talk about that, you only do this. No, that's not the point. We have heroes that are very introverted, right? We have heroes that are very extroverted. We have heroes that are only known in a very small portion of the AWS community ecosystem. But there's always notable things that they have done, right? And I think that's what makes the program also pretty strong.
Nice. Wow. Then congrats on making it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fantastic for me. And I would say the most important thing is that afterwards, and I think that's what we wanted to talk about a little bit as well, is I think you change a little bit the perspective on how you look at things, right? So these days, at the moment, it's been a little bit more quiet around myself, especially in the public, right? Because I've been focused on a lot of internal things for my organization, but also because I'm trying to invest into the community and helping other people grow, right? So we have something within the community that is called New Voices, where AWS is helping people, helping new starters to get experience at public speaking, right? And that thing is something that I'm trying to support as well, right? So trying to mentor others, to make other people grow and identify how can they do the next step in their career to be successful. And I think that's what I've been also doing a little bit in the background, and that's very important, right? So I think that also changes a little bit. The more that you do community work like I do, the more you start thinking about, do you really need to be in the front line, or is it better to be in the second line and help others to get to the front line, right? So you most probably you know that thing like you are only a leader if you have grown a leader. If that makes sense. There's a few pictures, right, where actually only after you have made someone to become a leader, you are an actual leader, and that's a pretty interesting thing, I would say. And I think that's what I've been trying to allude to in the last half a year, maybe a year already.
Yeah, so not just being the loudest voice and telling everybody you're the man, I'm the hero, but helping people basically get better in their journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but also speaking out truth is one important aspect of being a hero as well, right? So there's other programs in the industry that are similar to the AWS Heroes, where people are asked to put things in the best light possible. For me as an AWS hero, it's the opposite. Right, I'm there to ask the hard questions that no one dares to ask, not only internally to the service teams, but also externally. Right, so that means if I see things going wrong, then I see it as my responsibility to ask the corresponding questions as well. And last year at reInvent, I don't know if you listened to the keynote of Werner. Right, he was making a statement like, listen to the heroes. They are very well known in the industry and they do the right thing, right? And that is what we are actually doing, right? So one thing that I think was heroic was at reInvent, on the Thursday after Werner's keynote. So Werner does a keynote. Werner is the CTO of Amazon.com, right? And he does a keynote on Thursday mornings. On Thursday evening Pacific time, a few German heroes and friends launched listentotheheroes.com. Based on the meme that Werner was doing that in the morning, we sat together in a hotel and created that website, which then pulls in information from Blue Sky and all of that kind of stuff. But that was also kind of heroic, doing that as a group together, working on something that was pretty cool, right? I think that is stuff that only heroes can do, right? And I think I really enjoyed that. As well. So I think these kind of things are the things that bring us as a group together.
Yeah, I like it that the goal is that you have your own opinion. I think in English it's that like company shills. That's what people are usually calling people that are only talking good about the company and what they're doing. And that's also where it gets, not really genuine, because it doesn't matter what it is. You always have something that you might want to have improved and that you don't like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you remember last year, or when that Gen AI hype started, right, there was a lot of confusions around a lot of people in the industry, and specifically AWS, only talking about Gen AI and missing out on everything else, right? So there was one of us, Luc van Dankersgoed, who is running the unofficial AWSnews.com, right? He had a big blog post that went really wild around why the hell are you only talking about Gen AI? That's not really what I'm interested in, kind of in a nutshell, right? And I think that's the kind of voice that also the heroes need to give, right? And that we also aim to give, and getting into that position to be able to speak up and ask the right questions to AWS leaders specifically. This is what the program also gives you, right? And I think that's where we are very thankful for the community team, and that brings us in the position to also influence some of the launches that AWS does on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, you were mentioning the hype cycle before. It's always the same thing. There's a new topic and then everybody jumps on it. And then that's the big thing. AI, then it's agents and so on right now, right? Agents, MCP servers, all that kind of stuff. Because people are building their products around it. They hope for investments from others. But there is so much more that actually also matters a lot, but that gets forgotten.
Yeah, that's true. And all of the, I think, especially on the AI side, there is a lot of use cases where it does not really solve end user problems today, right? Where we kind of get into, oh yeah, this is something cool that I can do, but then you don't really get any value out of it. And I think that's, let's see how that emerges, right? So I don't know if you've been following recent announcements and have been playing around with AWS has now a possibility to run Amazon Q Developer as an agent within GitHub, which is a pretty fascinating thing, right? Not only because you can now delegate tasks to someone, to an agent to build something, but also due to the fact that it's in GitHub and not in any of the code services that AWS also has, right? So this also shows a lot of movement and a lot of potential that people see within all of the generative AI space, right?
Yeah, but you need some kind of a control mechanism that is able to say, okay, dial it down here.
Yes, true.
Because it's just too much.
That is true, right?
So
that was about the Heroes program, but maybe one last thing to that, right? So, as I said, I started with the Community Builders program, then went into being a hero, and after being a hero, I moved into my current role, right? Kind of. So, what I'm trying to say, it took me like two years to prepare myself for the role that I am now in. So I invested at least 1.5, 2 years to learn everything around architecture, AWS architecture, cloud architecture, deployment strategies, cicd, automation, all of that kind of stuff that then brought me into the position of now being a principal architect within our organization, So uh, that was a development thing as well, right? And here I need to thank the community again for giving me the possibility to learn, right? All of the content creators that go out and produce content, even if you just hit 2 or 3 people that actually listen to or read what you are building, that already can have an impact on people, right? And I don't even know which blog posts I read or which videos I watched in those 1.5 or 2 years, right? But I learned a lot from people that were eager to share their experiences, their thoughts, their learnings, right, with others. And I think that's something that we shouldn't forget either.
Yeah, but that always requires that somebody is actually, or somebody actually wants to improve themselves, right? That it's something that they're interested in and that they're actually following. You can't force people to now go out of their way and do something outside of the job that they have, right?
Yeah, you need to have that curiosity. You need to have that idea of trying to grow, of trying to get somewhere else where you are not today, right? And I think that needs to start with yourself, but then the internet gives us a lot of possibilities, right? To learn and to consume some stuff. And I think that's what I did, right? And that's what I would encourage everyone that wants to grow as well.
Yeah. So also it has become a lot easier with ChatGPT. So like just if you don't have someone and if you're just starting out, just have a conversation with it. Just get the first points.
Yeah, that is also true. It makes things a little bit easier, right? But at the same time, it brings me back to the thing I said earlier. You need to build something to really understand it. Right. So even ChatGPT can explain your things, and sometimes it also explains the wrong things. And then you need to know how to interpret that, right? And know how to take this from there. And the problem with that kind of thing is that the problem with all of Gen AI stuff is that you need to know the right questions to get the right answers. At least that's how it is today. And in a lot of situations, maybe you don't even know the right question. I had an example yesterday where I asked one of the agents to do something for me, and I missed one portion of the prompt. It was like one word of the prompt, and because of that thing ran off in the complete opposite of where I wanted it to go, right? So I had a solution idea in mind. I just wanted to save the time. And he ran off in the wrong direction. So I needed to enhance that prompt, right? And bring him into, okay, I need you to do this, right? And that's where sometimes they become creative, and that's not always good either.
Well, yeah. So we have that, how you come to your current role. But one of the overarching things that whenever I see you talk and when I check your YouTube channel, cicd, right? That's one of the things that.
Yes, that has been one of my themes for the last 2.5, maybe 3 years, specifically because I've been doing a lot of continuous integration and continuous deployment, and because I think that most software engineers completely underrate that, right? They just say like, okay, there's a pipeline and you need a pipeline, and that's okay. Some people don't even understand that they need a pipeline and still do manual deployments. But those that have a pipelines also say most often say, okay, yeah, that's something that we're going to do at the end. And I'm trying to change that mantra, right? I want people to start building the right pipeline first, even just with the first hello world that they do. And then from there, use this pipeline to continuously deliver value up to production, right? And I think that's a mindset that continuous integration and continuous deployment or continuous delivery at the end empowers you to do, right? And I also gave a talk with another DevTools hero with Torsten and an AWS employee Gunnar last year at Reinvent, where we specifically talked about why the hell you should really do that, right? And why it is so important for your success. And yeah, my YouTube channel has some, I would say, courses and trainings. But more importantly, I try to get on builders that have built specific CI/CD solutions. And I want to bring them to listeners so that we can learn from each other, right? And we can exchange on what the right approach for a CI/CD pipeline is for certain aspects of a tool. So that's what I've been mainly talking about in the last 2.5 or maybe also 3 years. And my YouTube is full of a lot of guidances around that topic.
Yeah, we're going to put this in the link of the episode so people can check it out. I think it's called @cicd on AWS when you use the @
That's correct. I'm still debating where to change it. I'm considering to change it, and I don't yet know if I might change the handle, right? And then also change the focus a little bit, because I've been talking about this for 2 or 3 years. Sometimes there's like, okay, I can now start repeating myself, but is that really going to be helpful for the community? No, but I have other things on my head that I'm working on and that I think are important for the community to understand, and that's where I might be switching or moving away from using that handle, right? But the channel itself will continue to exist and have a focus on automation and cloud technology and AWS in general.
I mean, I understand that from having my own channel. If it's all data engineering, like at some point it's going to get boring. Like every year creating a new, starting with data engineering in 2025, 2026, 2020. It's like, no.
Yeah, that can become a little bit boring, right? I think the question is, how do we ensure as content creators that we are on the pulse of the technology that is changing? Yeah. And this, for me, means I need to do things that I'm excited about. And this means I need to find something that I really want to share my knowledge about, right? And this means I need to be convinced of it. And for that, I need to be able to test it. And I think there's a lot of content creators out there that try to push out as much content as possible, that try to push out regularly content, that try to make sure that they hit all of the this is perfect marks. And also they're trying to pick up all of the trending topics in industry. And I think there might be good content creators, but those are not the channels that I'm personally interested in, right? I want to learn from people that share their experiences, because a mistake that Andreas made is a mistake that I don't make if he shares his mistake, right? So when trying to encourage content creators to share their mistakes, share the problems that you've had in all of the things that you're building, right? Because I think that's the best learning, right? Not doing the mistakes that others already did.
But that's very often a big problem. Like when I talk with students, and I always encourage them, like, just post it, just share a snippet. If it's interesting and if you think it will help people, but they're always like, what if I say something wrong? What if people don't like it? Like that's always a bit of a problem. You just need to start.
Just start and just believe in yourself and believe in others make more stupid mistakes than yourselves, because we are humans, right? And even our new Gen AI agents, they make mistakes. So that's where I really think it is really important to share what you really are passionate about, right? And for me, this is still a CI/CD and automation, but it's changing a little bit as I kind of move on from building traditional CI/CD pipelines. So I do a lot of GitOps at the moment. The concept of GitOps is a different one than CI/CD, but you can apply the same concepts. Now, what I've been starting to talk about on the channel is how do you bring those two things together? And I think that might be a direction where I'm going to continue.
So can you say a bit about that? Because what's the difference here?
Oh, well, so CI/CD traditionally has GitHub Actions, Jenkins, Harness, something like that, right, to run traditional CI/CD pipelines, or Azure DevOps, or whoever you want to call that. And then with GitOps, the idea is that you have declarative infrastructure state in all places, right? That means that I would say you have a development environment and production environments. In CI/CD, that's 2 stages in a pipeline. In GitOps, that's usually 2 places where you define different stages of configuration in Git. Now, you still need that orchestration layer, right, to bring things from dev to prod. And that's something that with that principle of GitOps needs to be developed in a different way, right? And I think that's the kind of stuff. I don't want to go into too much details. I've had one video around that topic, and there's potentially going to come a few more in that direction, right? that people need to understand that also GitOps is nothing new, right? It has been there for ages. Just the way that we apply it and the way that we work with it has changed, right? And I think, that's what I'm going to talk about that in the next few weeks. I don't know yet. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, that would also be interesting. Like, are you working with a content calendar, or are you just like, this is an interesting topic, I'm going to create a video about it and then push it out?
So when I started my channel 2 years ago, I had kind of a content calendar because I had a lot of ideas on what to do. Now, since last year, November, it has been like, oh, this is a cool topic, let's do it. And that's kind of what has been, once again, that's always, the reason is always real life commitments, I would say, right? But that's the way that I've also changed at the moment, the way that I operate my YouTube channel, right? I try to do cool stuff that I'm interested about and cool topics that I can find. But I don't have a content calendar at the moment where I structure the different posts. Maybe I need to go back to that. I don't know. How do you do it?
I have parts, like both parts, stuff that I'm interested in, and then stuff that is planned in. Where I have like last week, or was that 2 weeks ago, where Airflow 3.0 came out. I had basically that video I had planned before. But some other things, and there's going to come on my channel also other things soon, that is more of, okay, this is basically happened today, happened yesterday. That's what I found. That's what's interesting to me. Okay. and sharing that, and not just doing like these with teleprompter these videos.
I don't do any of those. All of my videos are live recorded and then a little bit edited, but not really edited. Nice. So I don't do any. Maybe that's why my channel isn't growing, but because I don't do any pre-scripting at the end, right? Yes, I have a storyline, but I don't do pre-scripting. I don't do all of the hard edits that a lot of people do, right?
But I think subscribers is not the measurement that you need to put on. Like, subscribers and views is a measurement for the success of a channel that is not really rewarding, because True. Now I feel like I'm in the position where every video needs to perform, and it's terrible if it doesn't perform. And so I want to get back to the point where, okay, I can just make a video, and because I find it interesting. If nobody, only if 100 people care about it, fine.
And that's where I am, Andreas. That's why I enjoy that stuff that much. Right? Yesterday I recorded with a friend of mine, and we recorded, and today we published. Right? That's cool, right? Because it's a very important topic, close to what is happening right now. Right? But that's what I want to keep. Right? I want to keep that energy and that thing that. I do this for others to learn. I don't do this to grow, right? I do this to help others to not do my mistakes and to do things faster and more efficient than I do that.
Yeah. And I mean, you saw basically that progression already, right? You were trying to grow, you were trying to help others to grow, and then you made that progression from that you talked about, basically, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true. Yeah, but I think content creation is very important for others to learn, and we underestimate the impact that it has. And it can be disappointing if not enough people watch or read what you do, right? But always think of it. There is at least one person in the audience that learned something from what you presented, and that grows because of that, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I know. I think Gregor Hope. He's a German, well-known enterprise architect. He was at AWS. He gave a talk at NDC in January, I think. And one of the things that he said in that talk was, as an architect, I always try to ensure that people that are in a room with myself are smarter than before when they leave the room. So that's kind of what his mantra has becoming, right? And I think that's also what I do, right? If you listen to my channel or to one of the videos in the channel, I hope that at least one of the persons is smarter than he or she was before. And then I reach the goal of what the channel is supposed to do, I would say.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Like, otherwise it will just get annoying. And you need to keep the fun. You need to keep it so that your goal is to have people.
And it's a hobby for me, right? So it needs to make me happy. And if it doesn't make me happy, I've always said I'm just gonna not do it anymore, right? If I don't enjoy it. And I think, that's what I'm trying to say to people, that start with aspirations of, I want to become a YouTuber, I want to become a star. The moment that you do that, right, you're already on the wrong foot, right? Because you're going to do something for business. Yes, you can do that, but will your heart be with that? I'm not sure. Right?
Also, we're not in the, like, this niche that we're in. You will not like grow that crazy.
It depends. Look at Tech with Nana, right? Nana has grown tremendously, right? Look at DevOps Toolbox, a friend of mine that I know from the Community Builders program. He started, I think, 5 years ago, and now he has 55K or something like that, which is, I would say, a lot, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, the big YouTubers like that have millions of views and make all money completely through YouTube and so on. That's you will not get there because.
Never say never, Andreas. You never know, right? Just don't do things just for that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, see this as a nice thing. If it happens, that's good. But most probably it might not happen to you and I in the part that we are.
Yeah.
But I get it.
I have two questions to wrap up this. I have two questions. One is for people who want to get started with AWS or DevOps, or a combination of this. Like, where should people begin? What would you say?
I would say it starts with you identifying a very small thing that makes your life better with implementing a project. It needs to be a full stack project. That means you need a user interface, you need a backend, you need a database or a state store or whatever you want to call it. You need an idea of what you want to create, and then you need to start building that. It doesn't matter which technology you need to do, but you need to build it all by yourself, end to end, including a CI/CD pipeline, including security tests, unit tests, including all of the deployment. You need to have multiple environments, and you need to have at least one user besides yourself. Okay. And with that project idea and starting to build something, it can be something small as something that an agentic AI can code for you within minutes. Create a to-do list. Yeah, you don't copy paste code only, right? You build it yourself, you deploy it yourself, you see it up and running. But that kind of small project will help you understand the small nitty big pieces that need to fit together, right? And by going through the pain of building that, and because even with AI, it's not just there, right? Going through the pain of understanding how to build that and how to deploy that is the best possibility for you to get started, right? And then you will only know maybe the 3 or the 5 services that you used as part of this project. But then you come up with, okay, now I want to be able to search the to-dos, and then you add another service like OpenSearch. Then you want to be able to see a time series. Then you add another database that has a time series database, so that kind of stuff. This is my way of telling you, go and build, right? Go out and start implementing something. And as I said, it can be something stupid. A to-do list is very stupid because everyone builds that. But maybe your spouse has a problem that he or she has daily, right? Something that he or she needs to automate, or your kids need to learn vocabularies, right? Implement a vocabulary teaching app for them. Do something like, and that's what I would encourage you to do. Find something that solves a real life problem, because that's what is going to make you be interested in building.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good point. I fully agree with that. The last thing we've been talking about like hypes and what is important and what people are talking about. What is a topic that deserves way more attention that it's getting from your point of view?
In industry right now, I would say there's two, but they kind of are together. I would say that the whole thing around developer experience, developer productivity is something that we're not good at, right? So if you look at AWS, yes, we have like 250 building blocks. AWS has a service that is called Code Catalyst that tries to bring things together for you. But there is, at the moment, not enough things happening to make the developer experience as a whole simpler. And I think this is general across industry. Yes, we might be having a lot of tools that help you to get started, but when we get to productize one of the services, one of the things that we are building and make them production grade, then there is not enough help in that direction, right? And that's where the second topic comes in. I think observability and tracing is something that we're completely underestimating, right? And especially we are underestimating that we're still forcing people to implement everything manually, kind of, right? There is frameworks that abstract some of the stuff, right? But at the end, it would be great to, yes, I start building, and at the end, I get an OTel trace that gives me everything that I need, right, to analyze if there is an issue on what actually happened over there. And those would be the two things that I believe are at the moment a little bit with not enough focus from the industry and from the community.
Okay. Could that be because it's not as much driven by money and by products, releasing new products?
I wouldn't dare to comment on that. I don't
All
know.
right.
I think there's many reasons for that, especially the observability and tracing part. I think is something that not many people like to do, right? And developer experience, well, I would say that's partly our fault, because the more productive we are, the more things we get to do. So not being productive gives us the flexibility and the freedom to also excuse ourselves maybe sometimes from delivering more. And that's where maybe there's not enough people interested in improving that portion too much, right?
Okay, that's why it needs more attention. Nice.
Yes.
All right, Johannes, thank you very much for joining me for this episode.
Thanks again for having me and for giving me the chance to talk to you about things that are close to my heart. Andreas, that was pretty interesting.
That's always nice to have people that are like, this is what I'm fired up about. So we're going to put the link to your LinkedIn in the descriptions.
Yes, please, go ahead.
To your YouTube. Something else where people should look for you? Or
I do have a blog as well. I don't blog that much at the moment, and I sometimes use Blue Sky, but I'm mainly on LinkedIn at the moment.
Oh, nice.
And then I would really like, I think, if you don't know how to start and where to start, get to your local user group and ask questions over there. I think that's in person is way better than remote, right? And just getting to know people really gives you the possibility to also understand maybe where you can grow, right? And be curious. I think just if you have any questions or you want any career advice, send me a message on LinkedIn, and I will try to give you some guidance, right, in some direction.
Very cool. All right. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.